Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Troy Shuker, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Redrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is on Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
There was no parallax?
I believe so.
Have you checked out the? They had to use the radius of Earth, 3,959 miles, and then they claimed that Venus had the same radius, and then once Venus transited the Sun, they claimed that they could get a distance to the Sun by triangulation.
Yeah, that's right. That was that 2004 they did that experiment. Is that right?
I believe it was before that time.
Didn't they do one in 2004 where they looked at Venus going across the Sun?
Perhaps. I'm not familiar.
Morning, Neil.
I said hello.
Hello.
The distance to the Sun has changed several times over, the course of history. It used to be like started out at 1 million miles or so, and now it's up to 93 million, according to the current thought.
Good morning.
Morning.
8:10.
Oh,
So if the distance of the sun has changed, does that mean at each time they had a erroneous distance? They must have had an erroneous radius of Earth?
either that or their assumptions were their preconceived notions of what is.
Well, it's my understanding that you have to first have the Earth's radius before you have distances and sizes of other stellar objects.
Yes, sir.
So then if they say it was 1 million, and then another time they say it was 3 million, and now they say it's 93 million, then all those 3 times the Earth's radius has to have changed, which discounts Al-Biruni and Eratosthenes. So we can just throw those stories out.
Yeah, if you all you've managed to do is disprove the radius of Earth, then the whole cosmology kind of crumbles like a house of cards.
But we've done that, and they've done that by changing it 3 times that you've just said.
Sure.
Nah, they just changed the model.
Right. Which means Eratosthenes and Al-Biruni's numbers can be discounted and ignored because they changed the model.
So, what's the current stance at the moment? Then, what's the official ballers like? Because obviously there's a few, isn't there?
What the radius of the Earth? It's commonly known as 3,959 miles. And in some cases, they'll go as high as 3963. But from 3959 to 3963, small variance. But that's it. That's all I've seen.
Okay.
But what happens when you show any number of different black swans? Now you have a circumference of the Earth that's so large. I mean, it's like, forget about flying anywhere. Your oceans just grew by 1,000 times in distance.
Hey, didn't they used to say that during the winter time, the sun is further away or closer to the Earth? Which one was it?
Winter, they say it's closer.
And summer, they say it's further.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Yeah, well, they're getting, as was just discussed, all these model numbers from Kepler's third law, and it requires on Venus having a scaling value when they observed that transit that you were discussing. Well, that gives them the scaling value and distances to everything. But they've got to assume R for Venus and assume R for Earth.
Right. So if you assume these numbers, and then they change these numbers, then all of what was credited to arriving at these numbers are wrong, since they changed them.
Well,
So it's
yes.
just presupposing then.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is, if you're going to quote their heroes, Al-Biruni and Eratosthenes, and their numbers are 3959, and then they say over time, well, we have to change the distance to the sun so many times. Were they not basing it on those numbers to begin with, and it's allowed? Or did they need Earth's radius to be the same as Venus in order to get those numbers in the first instance?
Well, it took a while to get everybody to assume the same things.
Now that I can believe.
Yeah, you're not wrong, though. It did take a while to get everyone to assume the same things, and then once you've got everyone to assume the same things by way of indoctrinating them from birth, then they'll beg that question till the day they die and defend it if you challenge it and tell you how perfectly reasonable it is to beg the question if you point out that it's a begging the question fallacy. So yeah, that's why the black swan exists, because after enough repetitions of, yeah, it's perfectly acceptable to just assume that the Earth's a sphere in the first instance and then go from there. You go, okay, well, let's assume Earth's a sphere in the first instance and go from there. The distance to horizon would be at your mathematical values of 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and it's not. Ergo, Earth is not a sphere.
Because the black swan is so devastating, because that just absolutely, it flummoxes them, doesn't it? They can't get out of it. So that's why it's been so attacked with refraction and all just anything to try and hide the truth, really, isn't it?
Hide the truth that the horizon's not physically blocking things and isn't Earth curve. Yes, by claiming it's refracted, even though you've only got to go to a National Geographic video and they'll be out, boots on the ground, trying to find a physical obstruction to a boat in the distance.
The best one was when they have that cardboard painted target and the horizon's behind it, and the waves are covering part of the bottom of that cardboard, and they're saying, see, there's Earth curve all the time. The horizon, which is their Earth curve, is behind it.
Behind what?
That cardboard that was painted in the National Geographic one.
It's on one of the slides,
Oh,
or it
okay.
used to be. I think it might still be. I can't remember if I kept it in this lot of slides that are on screen now. One of them, I think, is still there, the National Geographic boat behind a physical leading edge of a sphere formerly known as Earth curve, the one they deny and claim is refracted now.
I still like walking them through the refraction argument in full. I know you could chop it off at the beginning, but for most people who can hold a conversation, it's important for them to realize their numbers for refraction. Now, if they're going to use 1.22 for the geometric horizon, as they want to call it, with no Atmo day, then you say, okay, if you're going to assume refraction, what is that formula? And it gives it 1.32. Okay, well, then why is the horizon still well over 10 miles out and not 1.32? So they can't even use refraction, because if you allow them to, it only extends to 1.22 to 1.32. So you can't use refraction argument.
Let me ask a question. In yesterday's show, well, the show with Virus, when he was talking about the line of sight, there was a girl in chat named Emma Peel who was saying Virus is right. You're just not listening to him. Line of sight has nothing to do. Like, you could get an angle just by looking. It's imaginary. Like, I don't understand what they're not getting.
What does line of sight mean to you, Neil? If I say, did you have a line of sight to something? What does that mean to you?
Have you got a line of sight to that lamp in the distance?
Yeah, to me, that's straight. But they're missing. There's a disconnect somewhere.
Disconnect? Yeah, you're not kidding. Presumably you're talking about a globe believer. I mean, if they're claiming we're not listening to Virus, well, what do you want us to listen to? He's double speaking. He's saying we've got a line of sight to a physical obstruction called Earth curve. Until it's not in its physical geometric position, then it's a refracted, bent line to Earth curve in the distance, refracted from its non-geometric position. Well, that's double speak. Either we've got a straight line of sight to it, or we haven't. You can't have it both ways.
So he's holding two positions. Am I correct on that?
Yes, obviously.
Okay, that's what I said. But I think she's a baller anyway. So no matter, like, I don't know. At first, she said she's here to learn, and she believes mostly everything we say, but she can't get on board with this one. I'm like, really? Like, wow.
Okay, well then go in peace with your bent, straight line of sight that isn't anything to do with what we see or light. Okay, if you can't get on board with us because Virus makes perfect sense when he says the line of sight is straight, and yet when we see things, it's refracted, therefore bent. You know, if you want to square that circle in your mind, then that's fine by me.
What you say? If you close your eyes and point the section straight, it's still a straight line. There is no. I don't know. I'm gonna find in chat. I'm gonna take some snapshots and go over exactly what she said, because it was really troubling.
Nathan, I got a slide in Master V I'd like to go over.
Okay.
Let you fit the screen first.
Okay.
All right. So here you have the alt-az coordinate system. It's also known as the horizontal coordinate system. So this is what celestial navigation uses. The horizon, the horizontal coordinate system. Pretty simple to follow. Let's just read what the altitude and azimuth are. The altitude of the celestial object as a star, in this case the sun, is its angular height above the horizon. And its complement, or that which is required to make it equal to a right angle, is called the zenith distance. That's the OZ that you see in the picture. The azimuth of the celestial object is its angular distance from the north point of the horizon. It is found by drawing an imaginary arc from the zenith point through the object till it cuts the horizon, and then measuring the angular distance between this point and the north point. So here you see the picture. You could see it's on a flat plane, and you see an arrow pointing north. So from north, you have to come all the way around until you line of sight is with that sun to know the compass heading, the bearing. And then you've got your angle of elevation, and then you've got your zenith angle for the if you were to measure from the vertical, but at the ocean, you always use the elevation angle first and then subtract from 90 to get your zenith angle. So here they're telling you that you need a line of sight with your sextant to the sun and a compass so that you know the bearing, where it lies over the distance based on how you're looking at it. How difficult is line of sight?
What is what? What is line of sight?
No, I said how difficult is to understand what line of sight is.
Oh,
if here is. You were going to say?
That it isn't. It isn't difficult to understand line of sight.
Right. I mean, it's so simple. In celestial navigation, if you want to know the bearing, you go from north all the way until you line up with where it is from the angle to the horizon, and that's the direction it is. And that's where in the books it's going to tell you where you are once you do all the other stuff.
All right, I found one thing she said. She said, but I can't get the rest. It says the light from the horizon is refracted. You looking in a direction at a point is not subject to refraction.
So you're looking at the horizon. That's the point you're looking at. So if you're looking at the horizon as a point in the distance, then that's straight. But if you're looking at the horizon, it's refracted. That's doublespeak. You can't have it both ways.
Why are they not saying that? I don't get it.
Well, they shouldn't even go there, because if it's refracted, how'd you ever get a straight tangent to it to get your distances?
You don't. So
Yes.
they need to simultaneously assert that it's also straight.
Yes, and then QE came on and tried to like guide him or help him a little bit, and he still said the same thing. So it's just zealotry at this point.
Yeah, they know that the argument goes forward with a straight line, and they haven't got one anymore. So they start double speaking about how the bent line they've said is bent for 2 years is actually straight now. That's all they're doing. It's fairly straightforward and obvious to even somebody who's not that clued up in the subject matter. It's obvious what they're doing. This line's bent. The line to the horizon's refracted. Okay, that means bent. Yeah, but it's straight if you're looking at a point in the distance. What, like a horizon? No, that's bent. Okay, we're going to look at the horizon then. We're going to draw a tangent to it. Yeah, then it's straight because it's a point in the distance. But you just said it's the horizon, therefore bent. Yeah, it is bent. It's refracted, deviated from straight. Right, but we're going to now use a sextant. Yeah, so therefore straight line. That's all they're doing, round and round in circles.
Refraction.
Yeah, that don't work no more though, does it, when they need a straight line?
What if you forget what refracted means?
Deviated from straight.
Bent.
Yeah, the idea of refracted curvature I thought was hilarious enough that I made a name after it.
Exactly.
No, I like.
That's your namesake. Exactly. Refracted curvature. Right, but curvature is a geometric assertion. It's a contradiction in terms, your screen name, and I love it.
Yeah, it's deviated from straight, deviated from straight. Is pretty much what my screen name comes out to.
Line of sight to the refracted horizon. That was the final saying from Virus.
Yeah, a line of sight to the refracted horizon, so a straight line to a bent line. Yeah, it just makes no sense. A straight line with a bent line, or the straight line is a bent line. It just makes no sense. It's stupid. They haven't got anywhere to go except to claim, yeah, it's straight now. What about the fact that it's bent? Yeah, it is bent, but you need it to be straight. Yeah, it's straight. That's what they've got.
The slide that I put up, it says you need it for the right angle. How do you ever get a right angle with this nonsense talk of theirs?
You don't. You need straight lines. That's why they're arguing for a straight line now after 2 straight years of telling us it's refracted.
Thing is, as well, they just you basically bring in the. You're trying to explain this to them. You bring in the say the sun down onto the horizon, which is the same level as you when you're at sea. Obviously, you've got to do your height of eye correction afterwards, but you're bringing it down to your level, and then that gives you the distance between the GP of that sun and you at that level, and that could be thousands of miles of flat measurement.
It is.
Just not getting it.
It is. And they,
Not could be, it is, right?
Yeah, man, yeah.
yeah, circle of equal altitude. You remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, clues in the
one of my
title.
favorites.
I mean, it's circle of equal altitude. They want to lay that circle.
It speaks for itself.
on a,
It speaks for
yeah,
itself.
it does. But they want to lay it on a globe, which would give it different altitudes.
Sorry to be thick, but when they say refraction, we are talking about they're talking about the light refraction, isn't it, for the medium, like what's being hit? Is that right?
Yeah, they're talking about the line of sight being deviated from straight. That's their answer to the black swan. Where formerly they drew a straight line and claimed it blocked things, that would be the horizon, and they claimed it was Earth curve, blocking things. Now, they don't and can't draw a straight line to it, because they've said that that line is bent. So that's it. It's always atmosphere, never geometry to acquire. They can't acquire it, ever. Hence their need to double speak and say, yeah, line of sight's straight now. Right, line of sight to the horizon. No, that's bent. They need both. Earth's flat, they need a straight line. Sphere Earth doesn't have one. That's it. That's the end of the argument.
But they'll be in here today shouting the same stuff. Line of sight to the refracted horizon. Don't you get it?
In Discord, Professor Phil, he's got the actual physical curve going on the sea there with that boat.
Oh, he's got a straight line to a physical horizon, has he? Be sure to let him know, Black Swan. Yeah, they all seem to have had amnesia. They all seem to have forgotten that they've spent 2 years telling us that that line is bent.
Well, that's the violation of the law of non-contradiction. It's bent when they want it to be bent. It has to be straight when they need it to be straight. They can't ever take a position because you can't defend the globe.
Yeah, it's an untenable position to believe you're on a sphere.
They break that law on a regular basis, though. If you think about it, everything is double speak and contradiction. Everything.
Question.
Do you have more questions, Moop?
No. So I'm just obviously I'm trying to do the one thing what I'm supposed to do, study myself, and it's just I'm just what you come into so much. I think for me, what's really astounded me is the amount of BS you have to go through. Of like, oh my word, they're just making this up because it's fitting maths that, and you just think to yourself, oh my word, so it's all just conceptualization in the imagination.
Yeah, it always
Obviously.
was. That's all it ever was.
Correct.
The globe only ever existed in your mind.
But they've done it in such a way that, like, because obviously I'm not educated highly, I'm just a thick person trying to get intelligent, really. But like the thing is like all the hoops you have to go through to really lay it out, because obviously, when I suppose like as a normie, before, like, in a sense, well, the Earth is flat. Yeah, I agree what people are saying. I think it is. Yeah, it just makes sense. But that's not good enough. You've really got to go and delve into the ultimate, if you know what I mean. And then when you get into it, what a puddle and a big mess it all is.
Yeah, I mean,
Welcome to Flat Earth.
when it comes down to, like, you're asking them to define an angle and two straight lines, and they can't get that right. I mean, that speaks for itself as well.
Like a beautiful tree in a desolate bit of soil, but with really strong roots. The idea of flat Earth. And it's never going to be killed. You can't kill that chunky tree off. It's too dense, it's too solid, the roots are too well taken. So people come along and they try and pour acid on the roots, and you're paying attention to the people around the tree rather than the tree. So yeah, the people around the tree go, tree's not real, it's not there, I'm going to pour a bit of acid on it. It's like, yeah, but it's still there. Even if you wander away for 100 miles, it's still there. But yeah, doesn't matter how acrid the soil gets, the tree still lives. The reason I thought about it as a tree analogy is because when people ask me about, well, why don't you do a different subject? You could make more money on YouTube if you covered computers, for example. I don't think that's true, but for an example. And I say, because I see the subject as evergreen. There's always going to be a new discussion point on this subject, unless the paradigm changed and people across the Western world became flat earthers or understood the nature of their reality to be flat. Until that point, the subject's evergreen. But evergreen, like the name suggests, would be the equivalent of a tree that doesn't lose its leaves. Well, it is like that, a tree that doesn't lose its leaves, but it's not for the lack of trying to make it lose its leaves by our opponents, making the soil as dry and as I don't know, parasite infested as they can make it. But as I say, the tree is still there. It's not going anywhere. You can't really kill it, because how are you going to kill the physical nature of reality? You can't. You can just control the information that the people ingest. But the information isn't the
They
tree,
need
is
it.
it? The people walking around the tree aren't the tree. They're not the information either. They're just reacting to the information.
Yeah, but the tree's getting stronger. Look where it was in 2015. Now
In my
look at the
analogy,
tree.
the tree can't die. So, in one way, you think, well, if the nature of reality is what it is, whether you like it or not, if you want to, or if you choose to believe something else, that really is your prerogative, isn't it? You can. So from that perspective, I'm just trying to say to Moot more than anyone, it's not really about how well the information's disseminated to others or whether or not they get it after you've told them. It's more about your being at one with it, your understanding, your being comfortable with that. Not comfortable so you can debate somebody when challenged, just comfortable so that you know what you know. And for me personally, that wasn't the case for the longest time in this subject. Now I'm at one with it. Now I don't really feel the need to convert people. I see the education use in debating it with people like Varus the other day. People will listen to that and go, wow, the globe really is untenable. You can't have a straight bent line. Or they won't. Either way, the information's being disseminated in this evergreen subject we find ourselves in. And as a YouTuber, I'm very happy with that. In spite of the acrid soil that I find myself, also trying to take root in.
Well, they can't kill it. They need it as much as we need it. Everybody needs it.
Yeah, the tree is so widespread that the roots have become the ground that they're standing on. So as much as they're walking up to the base of the trunk and pouring acid on it, it's like, yeah, even if you did kill it, it's making up the ground that you're standing on, so you're never going to. Not unless you kill yourself in the process.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Nathan, because just a quick one. I've been through so many emotions since becoming a flat earther, and it probably difficulties in the beginning, and I didn't even know about this flat earth and what was going on, and it just hit me and I didn't know what to do. I thought, this is going to sound stupid, I thought I'd been chosen to tell this people that the earth is flat, and I was forcing my view on everybody, not knowing the full argument and evidence. And I've learned so much from you guys as well, and I'm at a point now where I feel like that now. I feel so much more relaxed and at peace with it, and so happy to have found it. Now I know a little bit more, and I can discuss this subject with a little bit more education and intelligence. So, yeah, that's how I feel. And a lot of it's down to you guys. The show's amazing, and the information you put out there is great. So thanks.
Well, having that education does help in that regard, doesn't it? So as much as you don't, or I don't, I can only speak for myself, necessarily want to disseminate this to next man in the street. That isn't my bag. It is for some people. That's fine. Activists in Flat Earth, great, good for you. But to be honest, has it not fizzled out a little bit? Yeah, people have lost interest in the activism part of converting the world to Flat Earth. And as I've never really stood for that particular way, that motivation, I'm more trying to project out what I've experienced and how I've experienced it. And in order to be at one with it, you've got to have a good understanding and knowledge, in the true sense of the word, of what it means to be on a flat plane. Why isn't it a globe? Why is it a flat plane? And that's what the show can offer people on an individualistic basis. So although the show's called Flat Earth Debate, it isn't necessarily the case that the information's reaching the audience so that they can go out and debate it. But on the other hand, it is. Because were you to just disseminate that information through natural conversation, you want to be in a position to be able to say, well, I justify it thusly. Not, well, have you ever felt the motion of Earth? Or, well, it looks flat to me, or we see too far, or any other crap argument from 2015 that I have also put my name to at certain times. Well, when you get to the point that you go, we haven't got a physical limitation to our view, the horizon's not Earth curve. Here's why. Or, if we were turning, we'd see Coriolis deflection exactly as they claim, and we don't. Here's how. Here's us not seeing it and experiencing it, as they say we will. Or, obviously we've not been out to Mars and the Moon, because if we did, we'd all be dead, we'd have no gas to breathe. Here's how. So, although you don't want to be able to disseminate that like I've just done to an imaginary person, if you can do it in your own mind, literally, any of you are of the ilk that you talk to your microwave or talk to yourself or have that internal dialogue that some people do not, then while you're involved in that internal dialogue, you go through your own justifications for why it's flat. And you want those justifications to be solid so that you can put them to the back of your mind and not really concern yourselves with them anymore, as opposed to be deliberating about whether or not feeling the motion that Globe Earth claims, and then going through how they justify how you wouldn't really feel it anyway, and how that doesn't leave you at one or at peace. It just leaves you deliberating in an internal dialogue. Nobody needs that. You just, go out and eat ice cream and have a picnic.
No, I agree. I mean, I find it funny, like, because obviously this show has obviously I've been listening to about 5 years, I think, all in. But obviously it's woken me up in a sense of the way you've put the argument and listening to the back and forth. I think where, like at the beginning, when you first become a flat earther, you're like, okay, it all makes sense. That just makes sense. And then all of a sudden you get the rebuttals in and you're like, oh, maybe not then. And I think this show has clearly proven that all of that, like where you're tossing and being thrown and swayed sort of thing, now you've got the argument is so cemented, you're like, actually, now I truly know it is, because you've backed it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get on with things if you're not contemplating it all the time because you're concerned about it. And initially, that's probably how the debate was bore out in the first instance, because I wanted to get better at knowing how the debate actually was structured and how you genuinely overcome the arguments, as opposed to the 2015 arguments from the Globe and the 2015 rebuttals from flat earthers, together with all the nonsense that we gorged our faces on at the Feast of Nonsense when we arrived here. So, going through that process has been incredibly useful for me, because I'm not thinking about it on a daily. It's hard to say this, I do a daily show on it, but I'm not thinking about it from moment to moment, and a lot of people are.
Hello, guys.
Hello, Armin.
It does help, though, when your opponent starts arguing for a flat plane.
That does help. The elevation angle argument definitely has, although I didn't need it, it might have put more people than just myself at ease, because absolutely, it's nice to have your opponent tell you that you need a flat plane. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, Arwin, the Adam Meakin, Chocolate Sayin, Refracted Curvature, did I miss anybody? I don't think I did, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello, hello.
Hey. Hello. Good
Yo,
afternoon.
hello, howdy, and hi.
What's happening?
morning.
Well, that's
Afternoon,
super levels
everyone.
of excitement. Wow, I feel really privileged. Thank you so much for the levels of excitement this late stage of the week. any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth.
Negative, but Obi-Wan Kenobi Part 3 was great.
Oh my god.
No, it was not. No, it was not.
Excitement.
It was against canon.
What do you mean it
No
wasn't?
spoilers. Shut up.
It was great.
Against canon. What is it about hearing this phrase? I mean, when I hear Paula talking about canon, and she's referencing the Bible when she speaks about whether or not it's canon, I understand contextually why she would do that. When people talk about Star Wars and it not being canon, I must admit I do cringe a little bit. Anybody else? Feel that?
No
How is it not?
spoilers.
About continuity. So, like, when they made Doctor Who a woman, it was just nonsense, yeah? Because there was a distinction already of Time Lords and Time Ladies, yeah? Time Ladies can change their body whenever they want. So to have a Time Lord turn into... It just goes against everything that was the previous story. And I won't do the spoiler, but I think 3 is a bit like that. So, but yeah, probably a little bit self-indulgent, isn't it, to use the
Neil,
word canon.
Neil,
God.
mute.
I'm sorry, but I disagree.
Who cares? Anyway, in terms of the canon of physical reality, canon suggested in globe heliocentric terms, the story of globe Earth, that we have Earth curve blocking stuff in the distance. That's canon, right?
That's no longer canon.
No
Because now
longer
we're told,
canon?
Why would we expect to see this thing that used to be canon, right? It used to be part of the story officially, but now it's not. Because now we're asked, why would we expect to see it? So it's not canon, apparently.
This
It's
is
just
part of Globiola,
Didn't they
isn't
use
it?
a cannon to shoot a cannonball straight up and then it fell back right into the cannon?
No, canon as in it has...
I don't believe that either.
As in correct continuity with previous editions of the story, regardless of where it fits on the timeline, forward in the future or backward in terms of its prior to whatever origin story. Canon would mean that it follows on with whatever has previously come your way in your knowledge. So if something doesn't line up, i.e., I don't know, Darth Vader isn't suddenly related to Luke Skywalker at all in the previous, what do they call it again?
Wow.
If that was the case, it wouldn't be canon. It would be like a continuity error, wouldn't it? If suddenly Darth Vader's just made by robots. Go on.
Isn't it? A continuity error here. Chocolate just said they're canon. Well, this is what Coriolis disease is all about, isn't it? It's this denial of canon. So canon's still there. It's put out by Neil deGrasse Tyson, Brian Cox. They'll still repeat the canon. What we've got is anti-flat earthers that are going against their own globe canon.
Right. So when you have that in religious terms,
your own Death Star.
You have like separation of different churches, right? Catholics and Protestants, for example, right? They separate out into different factions. Well, in the case of heliocentrism, that's already happened. So the separate factions that will exist after the, I don't know, maybe the demise of heliocentrism as a result of this clear continuity error, the separate faction that's been spurred off, I don't know how long it's been in existence, but it seems like my recent memory would be Scientology. So Scientology is an offshoot of heliocentrism. It's very much like Star Wars, planted in the heliocentric world.
You mean the storytelling medium? It's not really a world.
No, the world of Scientology takes place in a galaxy far, far away, doesn't it? It's no different in terms of what. Whereas,
no, it doesn't. It takes place
not...
around us and then eventually ends up on Earth.
Earth being a globe in space in Scientology.
Right. So the storytelling medium is heliocentric.
So why you disagree? This is what Arwin does just to piss me off, right? He's basically agreeing with me, isn't he? Yeah, that's right. So it is fundamentally, foundationally heliocentric then, Arwin. Like I'm basically saying initially,
all
and you're disagreeing with me.
I can disagree with you if that makes you happy.
You're not disagreeing with me. You're agreeing with a tone that makes it sound like you're disagreeing, which is annoying.
Maybe if I disagree with you in an agreeing tone, it'll be better.
That would be more preferable.
Okay, I'll try.
Go on, Adam.
I was just going to say the Abrahamic religions, most of them are set in look at Neil's logo within a set structure. And when you refer to Scientology, it totally denies that and will stipulate that it is within this heliocentric millions of miles, as you say, in a galaxy far, far away. Are it's it uses part of the old religious canon, but then it's taken on heliocentric as merging the two, isn't it?
So what we're trying to convey to you, the audience, right now is that there's a continuity or a discontinuity with heliocentrism. The story changes. It seems to be fluid. They even claim that science, when they claim it, is ever changing when it's empirical. So there's a certain discontinuity to heliocentrism. And when I say we're smearing over the layers of lies with new concrete, by us addressing the problems, we're like the guys who go out on the roads with those cameras that scan them for cracks. That's what I used to perceive us as flat earthers as. We're just out here looking for cracks in the narrative so they can be patched up again. For example, well, the horizon isn't a physical leading edge of a sphere. It used to block boats and buildings. Now, not only are the buildings refracted, Chicago skyline's a mirage, but also the thing that's blocking it, meaning it needs to be a mirage, can also be a mirage behind something physically that you can see. Well, that's an address to the rhetoric.
So that's the canon switch, isn't it? Is, as I say, the canon says that the horizon is Earth curved, yeah? But anti-flat earthers now will have to go against that. It's not. You wouldn't expect to see Earth curve.
Yeah, so just by timing, Craig's on screen saying, what bulge? When all of his co-panel shifted uncomfortably while he was saying, there is no bulge when addressing the black swan. Well, why? Well, because there isn't a physical geometric limitation at your 1.2 square root distance in the maths anymore. There was pre-2020, and it used to block boats and buildings. It used to be called the bulge in your maths and still is. But like Adam's saying, there's a switch in canon. There's a change in the story, necessitated by an error in continuity when you actually look out and experience the world.
As I recall, in World War II, there was something called the Battle of the Bulge, and cannons were used.
Boom.
I was going to say, now they got a refracted straight line of sight issue that they're stuck on, right? So they're now trying to make it refracted and straight at the same time, and Akumu is like clumsily making headway with this. But Phil Bell's also trying it. So this seems to be the new effort. They're like drilling deep. They're like, what do you call it? They're fracking. They're fracking, ironically, to try and find a solution to a straight line of sight and refraction being at the same thing, right? That's what they're trying to dig for right now.
Fracking idiots.
To having success because you have a lot of people in chat, namely Emma Peel, who agrees with Virus and says we don't understand what he's saying.
Yeah, we covered this in the pre-show. You can't have your cake and eat it. You can't simultaneously claim that light to a point in the distance is bent, that's refracted, but simultaneously line of sight is straight. What if that line of sight is to a point known as the horizon that used to be a physical limitation to your view? Oh, well, then it's refracted. What if you're using a sextant? Well, then it's straight. Didn't you just say it's refracted? Yeah, it is. It's the horizon. We wouldn't expect to see Earth curve. That's what they tell us. I mean, I'm not even kidding when I say that. I'm laughing because it's absurd what we get back from the anti-flat earthers, but ultimately we are told that we wouldn't expect to see Earth curve.
Well, that's their fracking. They think no longer that they can dig. They think they can dig into this and then eventually get to the goods. I really think they believe that.
Yeah, they believe it because they tell us that it's no longer canon. But then in reference to if it was Star Wars with a new story that you're moaning about, Neil, it'd be like going back to George Lucas, who's no longer in charge of this, and saying, this isn't canon, it doesn't make sense with the story. And he'd go, yeah, that ain't my story. My story is this. And that's what Neil deGrasse Tyson, by comparison, would do. He'd go, yeah, that ain't my story. My story is Earth does turn underneath stuff, and I can calculate how much it'll turn under a football. Just because you are debating with people who appreciate the reality of that and shortened flight times doesn't mean that I'm going to change my rhetoric. Nor does it ultimately mean that we'd ever be in a position to challenge Neil deGrasse Tyson and say to him, why is it that you're claiming Earth turns under football? That would shorten flight times. We won't get that chance.
But every once in a while, the heliocentric priest will go non-canon in the canon story. So perfect example of this is Bill Nye when he was telling that girl, one thing I need your generation to know is that you cannot leave the Earth. The Earth is a closed system. That doesn't sound very canon to the original story of the Earth is in a flight, it's floating around in a second law of thermodynamics violation where you could get in a rocket and leave.
Talking of rockets leaving, did you ever see Buzz Aldrin do something similar, very non-canon, when he was being, he was chatting away to some 5 or 6 year old, and he's asked about going to the moon, and he says, we didn't go. Do you ever see that?
Yep. Yeah. The question is, why didn't we go? And yeah, that's my question. It's like, what, Buzz, you all right? What's going on there, buddy?
That's called a moment of clarity.
The problem with going non-canon from canon is you end up shooting yourself in the foot.
Or it blowing up in your face.
Should we move on? Is that enough on Earth Curve?
No, Earth Curve is non-canon anymore.
It is now. Earth Curve is no longer canon. Why would you expect to see this? What's on screen now? This is the National Geographic claim pre-2020. Still canon as far as normies are concerned, not canon as far as anti-flat earthers are concerned. What's this straight line? What's this?
No, but it is. It is, though. It's a straight line, but it's also refracted, you see?
Sorry, straight and refracted are mutually exclusive.
Well, not anymore.
What do you mean not anymore? Geometrically, you can't have a bent straight line.
No. In my new authorship of how the globe works, it doesn't contradict each other anymore.
Yeah, sounding agreeable. It doesn't work.
Paradoxes are non-canon now. Great.
Disagreeing but sounding agreeable. It didn't work. Sorry.
I tried.
You did try. Any more on Earth Curve? Formerly the geometric horizon depicted in Muppet Vision here by National Geographic.
Now let's move on to the next non-canon question.
Okay. Any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
Why would we expect to get an angle off a curved baseline?
You'll need to do that to triangulate your position in celestial navigation.
No, but why would you expect us to use a curved baseline?
Because globers think that the Earth is curved. That's why.
Oh shit, they do, right?
Well, most cannons need an angle when they fire their artillery, so it can never work on a globe.
Shooting from the hip with these.
Well, technically, didn't Newton argue that you could shoot a cannonball into orbit?
Oh Lord.
That's how he described it. It's not that he just said that you could.
Or is that just some sleazy rumor about him?
I'm trying to answer you. That's how he describes orbit. So the idea is that everything that is in orbit is perpetually falling. That's the idea. So you shoot a cannon and it goes up and across, and then it comes back down. You shoot it a bit higher, it goes up even higher, further across, and then comes back down. You shoot it that little bit higher, and it goes into orbit, i.e. constantly falls around the sphere Earth surface. That's what the moon is claimed to be doing. That's what we are claimed to be doing. We're falling perpetually around the sun in the heliocentric model. It's absurd.
I was going to say something about the curve.
Let me just address the fallacy, John. Sorry. Absurd and a begging the question fallacy on its face. So all it is the assumption that we are falling. The assumption that the stars in the sky that you see have orbital motion, i.e. they're falling around physical bodies in the sky when you see the lights doing it. And therefore that transposes onto us as a sphere when observing those lights. Therefore we as a sphere and the Earth we're physically standing on fall around the sun. Just a begging the question fallacy at face value.
And because it's all relative?
Hold on, Owen. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say that a flat earther just needs to measure an angle. Globe earthers used to use a line of sight to a geometric horizon to acquire an angle after subtracting a dip angle correction. That's over with. The minute they said refracted, they lost that.
Correct. So on screen now you have the Al-Biruni dip, as described by John a moment ago. That's a straight line from A to C. Don't know why it's backwards. Don't ask me, I didn't produce this. But it probably would have been backwards even if I had. But nevertheless, that's what we're talking about. This straight line that derives the geometry. This right angle that you can't get if the line's bent, and its necessity to derive the R to the centre of the sphere Earth with this triangle. Well, notwithstanding the fact that this height measurement from B to A was acquired off a flat plane, once you've begged the question of the flat plane you used with an angle to get the height being completely violated by this next measurement, because you're assuming then that surface you took the measurement from is curved, notwithstanding that, you still need a straight line to a geometric tangent point. That's Earth curve, by the way, at sea. That's what used to block boats and buildings beyond it down here. So if you had a building poking out here, you'd have a feet in inches value ascribed to it by way of the C value, Earth curve, getting in the way of it, and a straight line to it to calculate it. Until it was refracted, destroying all chance of ever deriving any geometry ever.
Well, it's worse than that, though, isn't it? Yeah, because nowadays, Al-Biruni wouldn't actually be able to see point C.
He wouldn't expect to see it either, would he, anti-flat earthers? Why would Al-Biruni expect to see this point labelled C that he's deriving R from? Well, obviously he's not going to see it. We wouldn't expect to see Earth curve refraction. Welcome to Penguin, Mr. Sam.
But that's why that's why he had to use the maths of Pythagoras. That's why they claim that he had to use the maths of Pythagoras. That's why they claim Al-Biruni basically had to beg the question, because they knew that he couldn't see point C. He wasn't able to see this geometric horizon because it doesn't exist. That's why they claim that. That's why the same thing they claim for Eratosthenes. Both of them were measuring a flat plane.
The globe proof is just proving a flat Earth, basically. They're telling you straight there. You've just got to research it, and it tells you it was measured flat. That's their globe proof. That angles were used, and it's flat.
Yes, every assertion that used to be claimed to be begging the question of a sphere Earth is incorrect. I was wrong. No, every assertion of a globe Earth doesn't start with a begging the question fallacy. It starts with an angle measurement taken from a flat plane.
That might be worse than begging the question of a sphere.
Worse for them, better for us. Sitting pretty when we know our opponents have to beg the question of a flat Earth in order to start their journey on assuming a sphere.
I was listening, Nathan, to Ricky Gervais' Humanity last night. And you know he's a atomist, evolutionist, etc. And he's gone about how people know it's a globe. He says, I mean, they knew years ago some Greek bloke was using shadows to measure it. That's the general rhetoric. That's the canon. But it's interesting that is the mainstream, and somebody like Gervais is citing it as proof of a ball.
Really?
I laugh because I just went, sticks in the ground, mate. You know what I mean? But yeah, he cited
no, let's go through it. Sticks in the ground. Let's start with the 2015 position in terms of a flat Earth rebuttal. I'll give it old and dusty, right, Chocolate? Sticks and shadows works both ways. You can do it off a flat surface and you can do it off a sphere surface. You can do it equally well off both. Incorrect. Why is that incorrect? Anybody on the panel or Discord for that matter?
Can't get an angle off a curved surface.
It can only work on a plane. After you've measured the angle, that's your sticks and shadows, that's an angle. Well, that angle's two straight lines, Ricky Gervais. So, my geometrically illiterate friend, how can it be the case that you're deriving a spherical value from two straight lines? You're going to need a flat plane for your sticks and shadows, Mr. Gervais. Are you geometrically illiterate? I'll trim it out and put it as a short and we can address it to you with a hashtag. Hashtag Ricky Gervais can't maths. Notice how I gave you a grammatical error for his name.
What I find funny is over the years, everyone seems to be surprised, even though they're flat earthers, that everything seems to prove the earth is flat. Down to the globe proofs prove it's flat. It's like, yeah, it can't not, all these things can't not prove that it's flat. Because it is. It can't prove it to be something it's not.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's a nice roundup. So the origin story, yeah, the true canon of the globe is a flat origin story. A measurement from a flat plane. That's where your only exists in your mind's eye globe came from. The flat plane it was measured from. That's the origin story. That's the real canon of the globe, a flat plane. That's where it began.
Apparently, that story isn't good enough, so that's why these anti-flat earthers decide to take it upon themselves to remix the story and give us the non-canon version of it. Because if the story was good enough, it would work, right? And then it would have been proven, and we wouldn't be here talking about this now.
100 people watching. Woohoo! Massive shout out to all of you who shared the show. That's the reason we've got 100 people watching. And a very warm welcome to you if you've just joined the stream. Really pleased to have you here. I have to stop changing some of these syllables now. Adam said Ricky Gervais. Ricky Gervais. Warm welcome to all of you. Please share the show.
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery.
A bit Ricky Gervais.
Let me comment on the chat here. This is crazy. Virus. No measured flatness, ... Angles don't need planes.
Yeah, they do.
Wow.
Hasn't he admitted that you need two straight lines meeting at the vertex to have an angle?
He doesn't need to admit it. That's what an angle is.
I know that, but he said it. He agreed with it.
See, this is an interesting reversal, this one. You know, we're talking about canon and the way the ballers bring this one. What they're doing now is attacking the canon of celestial navigation in some kind of strange attempt as if it proves the Earth's not flat. It's look at what's being brought to us. You can have an angle with a curved baseline, you know, as if that would then demonstrate it's a ball. It's a very anti way of doing it. They're attacking something that's solid. And even if they did in some way prove you could have these funky angles with curvy lines, it still doesn't address the rest of how celestial navigation works. It's just, this is one of the weirdest ones, I think, now, because, like I said, we're fielding basically retardia. It's not dealing with the subject at hand. It's dealing with an argument about, can you have a straight, a curved line on an angle? And that's, I think, symptomatic of what we're left to be dealt with and how weak their argument actually is. And virus demonstrates.
It's too practical to deal with, right? That's why they would rather talk about boats going over the curve instead of actually this celestial navigation, because people are actually out there doing this, right? It's been done. It's been established.
It's another one of those things that's advanced humanity. It's advanced the society we currently live in. It's provided us with means of trade that we didn't have before. It is very much part of our history that's advanced society. Now, in the same way, when they deny science proves things, now that we've shown they don't have any, we can still demonstrate that actual application of science advances humanity, stops people dying, things of that nature. So when it comes to our subject, our specialist area, that would be flat Earth, we are talking about the history of advancement of humanity. What's the globe ever actually done for anyone? Let's give one example. Give me one example of where the globe belief, the heliocentric model, has actually benefited anybody in any scenario ever, other than the deceivers who get paid heavily to lie about it.
Well, the only way it's helped is it's helped us at times to have a laugh. That's it. That's literally the only way.
It's actually more of a regression, because apparently we were capable of doing things 50 years ago that we can't do today in 2022. So it's more of a regression than any type of advancement.
So other than regression, having a laugh, roads sanitation, what has the globe ever done for us?
The aqueduct. Shout out to Godzilla37. It's a shout out to Arwin. Shout out to you, Arwin.
Huh?
Thanks for the super chat, Godzilla.
It's given us good movies.
Nathan, that slide in.
Yeah, it's given us good movies. Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you that.
That slide I put in the pre-show would be a good time. The one with the writing and horizontal coordinate system at this point. Can you put it up?
Uh-huh.
All right. So altitude and azimuth, the horizontal coordinate system, the one that you use from Earth, which means the one with the sextant, right? Because this is a Earth-based measurement, because you're on Earth with a sextant. The altitude of a celestial object as a star is its angular height above the horizon. And the complement, or that which is required to make it equal to a right angle. I mean, I'm going to finish it, but the minute you say right angle, it's over for a curved baseline. It's over for anything, bent lines. You can't get an angle unless they're two straight lines. The azimuth of a celestial object is its angular distance from the north point of the horizon. It is found by drawing an imaginary arc from the zenith point through the object till it cuts the horizon, and the measuring the angular distance between that point and the north point. So when Virus is saying you don't need it, when you use the horizon, it's a right angle, you need it, and it tells you what the surface is. What he's trying to do is say, I'm using an artificial horizon with a bubble, and so I'm not using the Earth's horizon. Okay, that's fine. We can go there. What is the artificial horizon trying to mimic? The Earth's horizon, if you were to use the actual horizon at sea with a Mariner sextant. But since you can't, you go to a bubble sextant from a plane, and you have to have a straight baseline called your horizontal. That's your reference point to get the angle. He's really just agreeing with us.
What Virus is doing is he's claiming a tangent plane without claiming it. He's secretly claiming it, like they do with gravity. You know the way they were claiming gravity there for a long time, where they were actually claiming gravity. You know that, and now they're at the point where they're also like claiming our curve without claiming our curve.
Right,
you know, because they can't make the direct claim.
Right, this is the problem they have. So the line that he needs is a tangent plane, either globe Earth with Dingleberry, that would be along a line. We call it the sensible horizon, and therefore you've got a dip to OG. That's the dotted line that would represent a straight line tangent point to a geometric horizon. But as described here in Andrew Thomas Young's diagram, they haven't got it anymore. Their line of sight is OH, a bent line. Well, that's no use. That's not going to give you a tangent plane. That's not going to give you a straight line of sight. That's not going to give you an angle. It all messes up the moment they introduce atmosphere, because nothing that they can see ever has a straight line to it. Ever! On a globe, because you assume that the air is sphere-shaped. Oxymoron, sphere-shaped air. But nevertheless, you're assuming sphere-shaped air, increasing density as you look out to distances. Therefore, light traverses a gradient and curves into your eyeballs, according to them. Well, that means you're never going to see the geometry of a sphere Earth. You're never going to see Earth curve. You can't derive R, and you can't draw a tangent plane. You can't measure an angle. You can't do anything in terms of actually surviving going out to sea. So globe Earth is absolutely untenable at this point, and completely negated by the use of a sextant. You don't need a globe Earth. You need a flat plane.
Nathan, I just posted a slide, the last slide. Can you go to that one?
Can you just say what
with a guy looking at an angle with 90s.
Is it all black, or can you make it out?
Yeah, I can make it out. Looks like it's on a blackboard, but that's fine. Looks cool.
No, let me put a nicer version.
That's fine. It's fine. It's good.
Okay, so here, no, you can't see the bottom part. Let me come back. Go ahead, Brian.
No, you go ahead.
He's eating. He's got a cake in his mouth. So you can probably see the diagram that Tent's about to draw out. It's just talking about drawing angles. And in this particular diagram, the top of this point that you'd be measuring to might be the top of a lighthouse. It's no different in terms of measuring an angle to it. But let's just say it's a star or the sun. Well, you need a 90 degree below it. That's what you're actually doing. That's the methodology. This can't be a bent line. And even if you're drawing it above the surface, you're still drawing it parallel to the surface, which has got to be flat in order to do this. So no matter which way you dice it, you need straight lines if you're going to be getting 90 degrees. You can't have a curved baseline, you can't have a sphere Earth. It doesn't work that way. Angles don't work that way. The Earth doesn't work that way.
Okay, I got the new one. I got the. Now you finish eating.
Go on, Brian. You go.
Yeah, it's very quick. Probably the ultimate begging the question fallacy I've ever heard is Ruhif referring to the horizon as the non-refracted geometric horizon.
Oh, where's that? Because obviously we've got two horizons, a non-refracted one that you can draw a straight line to that we don't see and you won't be pointing a sextant at, and a refracted one that's absolutely no use for a sextant either because it's a bent line. So which one? Oh, that's right. We only have one horizon. The horizon in your begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator was geometric, physically blocking boats and buildings, until the black swan came along and showed that if the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959, then the distance to horizon would be as per your Earth curve maths at 1.2 times the square root of the observer site in feet, blocking boats and buildings. It isn't. Black Swan shows it's beyond those physical limitations of a sphere Earth radius 3959, and the horizon's not 1.2 times the square root of the observer site in feet for physically blocking oil rigs. It's behind them. Hills that are physical don't move. You don't wake up one day and see that the hill that was blocking the shops behind it is suddenly behind the shops and you can see them. That doesn't happen. Earth curve isn't the horizon. The Earth is not a sphere. You need straight lines to get angles. It's an untenable position to hold. Right, 10th, hopefully that's enough lead up to your actual white and black rather than black and white.
1 second. That means that what you've just talked about there is the refracted geometric horizon.
Well, you're not going to be getting an angle measurement from it then.
No, but that's because it's not the non-refracted.
Where's that? Can I point a sextant at the non-refracted one to get a straight line? Is it no Atmo Day?
But that's the one that creates the refracted horizon.
The one that you can't use because it's a bent line. Yeah, we're going round in circles here, Brian.
Yeah, but this is Ruhif's the ultimate begging the question fallacy. No matter what direction you take it, he always has a globe horizon.
Yeah, we've only got one though, haven't we? And the one in their maths is the one that he needs, the geometric one with the straight line to it. Yeah, we haven't got that anymore. It's on screen for the audience's benefit. Black Swan. Horizon's not in front of these oil rigs, blocking them, because it's a physical hill in the way. The hill that used to be called Earth Curve is beyond them. So when he says he needs O to G, you need that O to G straight line, do you, Roofy? Oh, right, why is it dotted? Why has Andrew Thomas Young got it dotted? Oh, is that because we've only got one horizon and yours isn't a straight line anymore? So what are you going to do? You're going to imagine a straight line to correct for dip from. Yeah, that's why I'm laughing at you, crazy clown. Right, 10th. We've held you long enough.
Yeah. You're fine. I got it. All right. So you see here, we got an illustration of an eye line, much like the sensible horizon they like to talk about, or the astronomical horizon you get with a bubble sextant. See, the dotted line is your reference line, a flat baseline. And then the angle to, say, this pole here. And you see the right angle and you see the 90-degree box. Now, that bottom line also, where the feet of the observer here is, also mirrors, parallels that same thing that is at its eye level. Now, imagine at sea, and instead of a pole here to get an elevation angle to, you're actually shooting a star and you're using the horizon. So you bring the sun or star down to the horizon, barely skimming it, and then you make sure it's vertical, you get your angle, you get your time, and then you subtract dip, which is height of eye above sea level. And then you bring that same right angle down to that bottom. They can't get away with it. The artificial horizons give it to you at your eye line, but the Mariner section using the Earth's horizon gives it to you at the surface of the Earth, matches that. So if they're going to tell us you don't need it, but then they go here and say, as you all recall, hey virus, that eye line sight, that horizontal, is that straight forever? He said, yeah. Well, guess what? The bottom one has to be too. It's so simple.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
3 AU.
Why would you need to make that claim? I know it's farcical and Arwinian units don't really exist, but we don't need to make any claims of distances to these celestial items.
Correct. But I know people like to think that they do have a distance because of physicality assumption bias.
You can, but you can't use celestial navigation as a method to attain that distance.
Correct. You only need the angles.
So who needs a distance? I mean, who out of here is claiming a distance? Does anybody, any faction, claim a height to these items? I mean, for travelling to them and stuff like Mars and the Moon, etc. Who's claiming that?
They need a distance.
Oh, they claim a distance. Oh, right. It might be handy if we'd claimed a distance at this point, right? I mean...
Well, we can.
There is a claim, isn't there, within celestial navigation? I think I read it on the pre-show the other day, Nathan. The claim is arbitrary. If you're going to want to tie down celestial navigation to anything, it's just an arbitrary height. It doesn't matter.
Shout out to us so far. It says, great show. Any evidence of the moon speeding up while behind the Earth and slowing down whilst beside the Earth, then speeding up again in front of the Earth? ? No. Again, Albin's physical assumption bias rides supreme in terms of your questioning, it seems. But thank you very much for the super chat so far. Did anybody want to actually answer his question?
I was going to say, yeah, the evidence is that very smooth path, that consistently one-speeded path that we witness from the surface. For a baller, that would be the evidence of it obviously speeding up and slowing down. It has to be in their model, you say.
What are you talking about speeding up and slowing down?
In terms of its orbital motion around the Earth, as the Earth's also orbiting, to do that, it's got to speed up to go past, slow down, yeah, so it can maintain that relative position whilst orbiting the sun.
And then while the Earth is doing that to the sun. That's the best part.
Got a citation in Master B.
Can I just go back to the sun thing a second? Yep. I was just going to say something there a minute ago before Nathan said something. We can claim horizontal distance to the sun by using angles.
Okay. That's a fair point. What Brian's saying is, I had to explain this to my wife yesterday when I was describing Venus being visible till it reached my zenith. Well, what's my zenith? Well, my zenith would be if the sun, in this example, is directly above my head. That's the position that the sun is above the land. So that's where the sun is in terms of Brian's planar distance from you looking out ahead to where it's above. And yeah, absolutely, that's the whole principle. That's what celestial navigation is in essence, right?
Yeah, you can calculate the surface distance to the sun's GP.
GP being geographical position, or a la ground position. The position on the ground where the sun is above.
Not the super GP, right?
Yeah, not super GP. Yeah, you're not claiming a height to the sun by saying that. You're claiming a horizontal distance. So if you use co-altitude, right, which is co-zeniths, right, the zenith from the GP and your zenith, then you are not lying. You're telling that as per the angle, the sun is a horizontal distance from you of X. But you're not claiming a height to the sun or what the sun is. And you can prove this because you can show that the GP of the sun is exactly where you said it would be as per the angle at that time.
There's a citation in Master B on this, Nathan, if you want to put that.
Okay. John? Distance irrelevant, it says.
Yeah, from time and date. Based on two coordinates, altitude and azimuth, the horizontal coordinate system provides the general direction in which to find celestial objects. Although the distance of the visible planets, stars, and galaxies differ by billions of light years, the system ignores the depth of space as an object's distance is irrelevant for the purpose of locating it in the sky.
Or to put it another way, your heliocentric claims of distance have to be ignored and relinquished in order to fulfill this methodology that is definitely not falling in line with your claims of travelling to Mars and the Moon, because when you're actually finding where the hell you are if you get lost at sea, you won't be assuming that Mars is a specific distance away. You'll just take it as read that they're above certain points on the flat plane. That's all you know, and that's what you'll use when you measure the ground flat to find out where the hell you are and not die as a result.
That's a kind of tacit admittance that celestial navigation and the heliocentric model are not compatible. You have to have these distances in the heliocentric model. It's integral, and it would have an effect. But as they say, but actually the way we do it in reality, it's not there. This is what I'm saying. It's tacit. Is we use celestial navigation. Hence, the distance R is irrelevant because there isn't a distance.
So there's a beautiful summary to follow from that, Adam. Beautiful. Thank you so much. So, in your experience, your physical reality, and your navigation about the ground that you find yourself upon, the methodology used and potentially has and could save your life if used is incompatible with the claimed method of journeying to the stars. So when they claim they've calculated how much fuel they needed to travel to the moon, or calculated how they'll get through the orbital motions and navigate the solar system to get to Mars, those journeys and those distances are incompatible with journeys and distances that you can actually take and measure on the ground that you experience. They have to be thrown out completely if you're going to actually maths the ground or the sea that you're lost in. Incompatibility. Sphere Earth and travelling to the stars is incompatible with flat Earth and travelling along the ground.
Also, I'd like to add to Adam some other points that they omit too. One, the Earth must be motionless, so no spinning of the Earth, and it's got to be the center, and the celestial sphere and the stars are what's moving. So they're omitting in many ways things they shouldn't be omitting if the globe was true.
Yeah, and distances to the stars are claimed by the heliocentric claim. Distances, all our distances never come into it. You know, I know Nathan was saying this the other day, and I was talking about it with G some time back as well. They never use the distances. The actual claimed distance to Polaris or the sun, that goes out the window as soon as they start talking about heliocentric celestial navigation, something that doesn't exist. All their distances are gone.
We
don't use them.
There is no heliocentric celestial navigation. It's done in the celestial sphere model off a flat plane in all instances. So that's an oxymoron because there isn't a heliocentric celestial navigation methodology being employed, only a flat Earth one. But the incompatibility, this is the thing. The incompatibility is what Adam's given us so concisely a moment ago. Thank you for again, Adam.
No, there is actually, because they use tangent planes.
What, flat Earth?
Yeah, and maths after that.
Great example. Yeah, they have to concede. John said this, I think, before you got here. It's like, it's nice when your opponent has to concede your position in order to carry on fighting for theirs. Yeah, very nice. Yes, they have to use a tangent plane. What's that, a flat plane with a dingleberry not used in the method below it? Yeah, that's a flat plane, isn't it?
Yeah.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
It's over there. Oh, wait, no.
Unless you can call, it's over there. You might as well be saying that, Aaron, because unless you can call back into question scientific evidence, then there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever for gravity, scientific or otherwise.
About any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No. They can't manipulate their independent variable. So that's
Well, they could, they just don't.
Nobody that I know of in my field uses the scientific method. It's leaps of logic. It's seat of the pants. It's guesswork. Quote, Michio Kaku.
Ironically, there is actually an element of guesswork that is the genius of science. If you are the person that has thought about what could, that would be a leap of logic. Not so true when you actually break it down, because people tend to be very well researched when they get to this stage if they are actually scientists. But you've got to put your finger on what is the cause of the effect at that point unknown, and get it right when you vary it to prove it causes it. Well, therein lies the genius. But that leap of logic has to go through the method to have its validity offered. Because up until that point, when you say it's leaps of logic, like he does, then that's a supposition yet to be validated in science. So your leap of logic is still in there, Michio Kaku. You can still have it. But you just have to vary your leap of logic and see if it causes the effect you're describing it to cause, to validate it empirically. That's where science could help you out, rather than you just sow stories and your inference that a hypothesis, that's your supposition of cause, is easily usable as an explanation, which is all that they do in heliocentrism. Give you a just so story of what could be a cause of an effect, might not even be something you experience in the case of gravity. And then they say that's a supposition, therefore if A then B, that's also an explanation. If A then B. There you go, done, job, science.
Yeah, and he does say, I think he does say, I don't mean to correct Chocolate, because obviously Chocolate has all these quotes, and I don't have them, I forget them. But I'm pretty sure he does say the so-called scientific method, which is kind of not attacking the scientific method.
It's demeaning it.
He's misleading. He's kind of saying there may be other methods, maybe. That's what that statement says to me.
Yeah, our go-kart is better than those so-called Lamborghinis.
But that's funny, because in his other quote, he distinctly makes the difference between a theory and experiment. So it's funny that in one statement he'll say this, and then in another statement he'll make a statement clearly saying that he knows there's a difference between a theory and experiment. Calls it the greatest mismatch between theory and experiment, and that's your cosmology, Globers. So that's pretty bad.
Of course, in real scientific vernacular, theory follows scientific experimentation. So you vary and manipulate the thing you've supposed caused the effect. You don't just take it as an explanation at that point. You actually vary it, see if it causes it, and if it does, you can then go on to form a theory.
So the very thing that they misuse in order to have credence and respect the scientific method, science, let's science it, all these things we see, then they later, once they've got their white coat and their little name tag, oh, he's a scientist, he must prove everything before he talks. Then later they say, oh, well, no one uses it, and now we can gain from the audience thinking we do that, but we never do that. So we can say anything now because they think it's science.
Sensual Goat says, I asked the expert Roy Orbison if he knows of people seeing orbs outside, and he replied saying, only the lonely.
Well,
Listen,
for complete context, I'll say the entire quote, right? In the quote, in science, we always say that you make observations, you have the theory, you make more observation. It's a very, very tedious process. Wrong. Nobody that I know of in my field uses the so-called scientific method. In our field, it's by the seat of your pants. It's leaps of logic. It's guesswork. Unquote.
Who was he talking to, though? Was it a pretty woman?
What?
Hey, on the scientific method, though, and falsifiability, shouldn't they be happy? I mean, we falsified their globe for them, so they're almost there to science with it.
Science doesn't prove anything.
So says my son.
they'll say it disproves things. Well, we've disproven that it's a sphere. So
I love it. I love that as a reply. It
Wait.
disproves things. So consequently, on the flip side of that chord, if you disprove something, don't you also ultimately prove something? I.e., you prove it's not that then. That's proving it then. You can't not prove something in that scenario. But they're claiming it doesn't prove anything. It just disproves things. Shh. Ultimately meaning it also proves something.
Yeah, but we didn't disprove the globe using science, because you can't do that. But we did disprove the globe using geometry.
Well,
That's
logic,
correct.
yeah. Lack of maths.
But they don't make a distinction. They don't make a distinction. That's what I'm saying.
Well, you can't really disprove something scientifically when the claim isn't scientific in the first instance.
Yeah, its claim is geometric. Exactly, Aaron.
Yeah, exactly. You can try and disprove their claim of maths with logic, but that's not disproving their claim in science, because their claim isn't science, not open to science, isn't a cause and effect relationship. It's just a baseless assertion based on fallacy. I.e., Earth's a sphere. Why? Because I assume it.
So it's geometric, right?
What I'm saying is, though,
Logical. You're debunking their lack of claimed geometry. Their assertion in the positive is they've got a physical limitation at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That's their claim of physicality for them to prove. Well, when you take it as read that that's what you will have based on their claim, you then disprove it, i.e. show it not to be true. So you're showing a lack of claimed physical measurable geometry. But you're doing it with logic, not with maths. You're not disproving the Earth with maths. They're claiming to prove it with maths, and you're showing how it can't be the case with logic. Make sense?
Yes.
right, and that's fine. But to them, math is science in their minds. That's why
Indeed.
I said that.
Well,
Indeed.
they need to watch QE show this weekend then.
Yeah, good job. We've been reminded while we're still live. So tomorrow, be here or be sphere on the Quantum Eraser YouTube channel for Ballbusters Live. Be here or be sphere, 8 p.m. UK time, and whatever time it is in the colonies.
2 p.m. Eastern.
We're doing
Yeah,
shout outs.
they're still sore.
It's that are we doing shout outs in between it? So 10th man's probably got a pun or an important point. So either one probably comes higher, Adam. So after 10th, go ahead.
No pun, just the point. To answer Neil, they're a little sore that they lost their baby brother over here in the Americas. That's why we're the colonies.
Oh, I see. Whitherest thou goest to the colonies.
Well, if it's a 55 and older, housing project, I can go down.
Go ahead, Adam.
On quality puns, I noticed that you noted the pun, but nobody else did earlier on in the show.
When was that?
Aqueducts.
You don't mention it. Just leave it be. What are you doing?
It was brilliant. Anyway, on screen, I've been asked just to give a shout out. There is a Flat Earth meetup at Hyde Park Speakers Corner. For those that do want to get out, quite a few folks going. It was Dave Mann and Trinity 4 that asked me to give a shout out. So I assume he was there. There's quite a few other folks on there. Jason, Didsbury's there. Dave, Roxanne.
Where is this?
Well, you not get there, I don't think, dude. It's in Hyde Park in London, 26th of June, 2022. So, a few weeks. Just thought I'd give them a shout out. Should be fun. Meet up with people. Some really nice folks down there.
Has it got a name?
This is the bit I know you won't like. It's labelled Electromagnetic Universe Flat Earth Meetup.
Oh my God.
My God.
I thought I'd save that bit for the end.
I will not be there.
Bloody outrage. With that, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+Pals for making today's live show possible. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you for smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the PayPal link, smashing the thanks button, and all that good stuff. Stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream, as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day! But this is being redemptive with Rogue, freaking the Mandalorian, and this, and Boba. They've redeemed it. Come on.
Did you say lawnmower?
Yeah, it's about as relevant to what we're talking about, really.
No, actually,
Star Wars.
hang on.
Brian, we
who
got to lighten
cares?
up a little bit.
I don't understand. Who cares? We have a couple of hours a day to talk about the subject.
Are you done now?
Oh, you're all wound up too tight. You need a good Star Wars show.
Ryan, get this.
There are good Star Wars shows.
The lawnmower is a cut above.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, wasting your time, Tent.
Lawnmower is a cut above.
Who said lawnmowers?
Lawnmower through the globe.
Well, it cuts the grass level.
Yeah, globe proven.
Star Trek is better than Star Wars. Who wants to debate?
Wow. Really?
Dragon Ball is better than all of that.
No, but
like except the movie, right?
No, but story development wise and universe building wise, yes, Star Trek is actually better.
Never.
But when it comes to actual beauty and like real interesting characters and just overall interesting situations, Star Wars is definitely winning.
All right.
Ollie, did I tell you the time I met William Shatner in a restaurant?
No.
Was he taking
Can you tell us how that went?
Yes,
That's
he did. Yes, you
yeah, I did.
You insulted him, he looked at you.
Hey, hold on a second.
He did.
Nathan, that's exactly what I did to him.
Congratulations.
23.9.
William Shatner now hates you. Congratulations.
First, I said,
God.
"Would you
I am
mind
so
signing?
excited. Tell me
Would
more.
you mind signing this $100 bill?" He looked at me. He said, "It's against the law to deface government property." I swear to you. I said, "Oh, really? Is it against the law to sign this card?" And I whipped out a card from the restaurant, but he signed it. And then I literally abused him the rest of the night. He left with his family. I just kept shouting stuff over. Beat me up, Scotty.
God.
Did you ask him
Kneel
why he
him
did
out,
it?
did you?
I was an asshole.
Of all the characters,
Don't mess with Arwen's hero, man.
of all the characters, Captain Kirk had to deal with, Neil was the hardest one.
I'm kidding, Arwen. Relax.
Dude, that wound just healed, all right?
It's okay, man.
He was a good guy.
The concept of time heals all wounds. Don't worry about it.
Just imagine you're at a restaurant with your family, and some guy just comes up to you and starts yelling stuff at you.
No,
I didn't. No, you
not some guy, Neil.
I asked for an autograph first. Then when I went back to my table with the autograph, then as you're reading, I started, throwing a few things out there. Guys were egging me on. So,
John, you got to realize the way Neil talks, he came in with an axe. He axed them.
Yeah, I axed him right in half.
Yelling at you with an axe. That's an image.
I'll tell you one thing. The son of a bitch looked good.
What year was it?
1994.
What universe was it?
20 years ago.
Right. Yeah. Well, he was still very well maintained at that time. And
He has
movies.
He has the best rug on his head that I've ever seen in my life.
Toupee.
That's almost.
Encore.
That was good chocolate. Toupee.
But that's almost 30 years ago, Neil. I mean, that's not too long after, like, it's about less than 10 years, maybe 10 years, less than 10 years after T.J. Hooker. I mean, no wonder he didn't look too bad.
I can't imagine William Shatner offering toupee for Neil's meal.
Guys, come on.
No, I meant he was in shape. I mean, you could tell he was physically in shape.
Can I just say something? That any minute now we're going to hear, and with that, blah, 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 blah.
No, we will not.
You've got to be
You
careful.
decided to change the subject to some sci-fi nonsense.
Yo,
When we
let's
were
talk about
talking
Amber Heard.
subject.
Have a little respect
Amber
for a man
Heard.
at that age.
Wait.
You wouldn't be able to sit through a rocket
This
ride.
is how the ballers come out.
Listen, but William Shatner, he's like yesterday's news and all with his all ballardiness. What about Amber Heard hitting the hammer? Huh?
I didn't
You know
know
what I
anything
mean?
about it. I was
What do
waiting
you
for
mean getting the
Nathan
hammer?
to tell
Hold on.
us.
What do you mean getting the hammer?
Well, the verdict is in.
Oh, right. Oh, yes, she's basically, what's the term? Found liable for defaming Johnny Depp in so much as accusing him of sexual violence against her. And a jury of his and her peers found that that wasn't the case, and she defamed him by claiming that story and offering it to the press. So the press, who obviously bought it fully and published it out there, including Dan Wooten in The Sun, saying, how can the girl who does Fantastic Beasts, I've forgotten the author's name now, J.K. Rowling, be happy employing a wife-beater like Johnny Depp? Well, I wonder how many headlines there'll be now that are exactly the same, saying things to the effect of, how can Warner Brothers be happy employing husband-beater Amber Heard in their new Aquaman movie? Because those are going to be the headlines that follow. And justice is a bitch, for someone who's a liar like her. But there we go. Such is life.
Those headlines won't come. They won't.
They will.
They won't. There'll be a bit of a backlash against her, but she won't be called a husband beater, because that's not something that the public really cares about. Do you know what I mean?
They're going to tear down a woman's...
Yeah, but that's not
Hold on a second. But anybody else should be embarrassed by that.
Can you just let Brian finish his statement? Everyone, hello. Just let Brian get to the end of his statement. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
Sorry, Brian.
That's not shocking. Okay, Nathan.
Owen's just doing it to piss you off.
That's not going to sell. That's not going to sell papers. It's not going to sell headlines. It's like, it's not shocking. It's like, what, husband beater? Are you joking me? Do you know what I mean? That doesn't. Nobody's going to care.
Okay. How is nobody going to care? First of all, it's embarrassing. But you know what? Johnny Depp don't give a shit. He's Johnny Depp. So he was beat up by his wife. I love it.
No, they're going to call her a lawyer. Lawyer Amber Heard. That's what they will do. If they're talking about a female, it's a lot more damaging to call her a lawyer.
Well, I think it was a good verdict because the Johnny Depp side said things about her that wasn't true as well, and they were found liable for that.
But what has any of this got to do with Globe and Flat Earth?
They all live on it.
It hasn't, but it's just drawing a line. We've discussed it 3 times on previous shows, so this is the conclusion of it. If people happen to have a mild interest via us in the after shows, not on a live show, I might add. But no, it's just a wrap up to it, basically, isn't it? Ultimately speaking, the Me Too movement, #Believe All Women, starting off as Believe Women, has been utilised by a lying bitch to promote her own ends, and she's lied about giving 7 million in divorce settlements to charity so that the UK trial, which very few people may or may not even know about, went her way rather than Depp's way, because she was being claimed to be a money grabber, a gold digger, and when she made it clear, when she perjured herself, in most literal terms, to a UK court that she had donated 7 million divorce settlement to charity, that leaves you with only one conclusion as far as the judge was concerned in his conclusion, which is to say, how can she be a gold digger if she gave all the money to charity? Therefore, no, Depp's lying, she isn't. She was abused. I find it to be substantively true, based on what she's told us as a limited witness in the case, because she wasn't the plaintiff or the respondent. She was merely a witness in a case against the son. Well, in that case, that was very damaging because they got the permission to say it as many times as they like. Yeah, he's a wife beater. Well, in reality, when you put it in front of a load of your peers, i.e. a jury, what you see is, truth will out. She's a liar. She came across as a liar on the stand. If it wasn't obvious from how she behaved and what she talked about and how she had very little actual emotion attached to any of the words that came out of her mouth, and melodramatic over-the-top style in delivery, paused only by her head switching to the person asking the questions to switch off the emotion, and then switch it back on again when she flings her head back towards the jury. You know, it was a disgraceful show in that regard from her, and she deserves to be punished. I hope she does have to pay every penny of it, and if it puts her into bankruptcy, good. Ruining a guy's life regardless of how rich he is, in this case Johnny Depp, is totally unacceptable. And as for Neil's opinion that he got beat up by his wife, no, what he did was the gentlemanly thing and not retaliate. Not give her a clip round the ear. We talked about Sean Connery earlier. Well, imagine Sean Connery in this scenario. He's been brought up in the last couple of years because there's old videos surfacing of him in a very different time in the 60s and 70s when he's talking about, yeah, you give her a clip round the ear if she gives you a lip. Basically, that's what he's saying. Now, times are very different now to Sean Connery's day where that was the case. People did just accept it in social terms to give your wife a clip around the ear if you saw it as necessary. Outrageous, right? Well, now the tables have turned so much the other way in favour of women that women are doing the same. It's seen as, by Amber Heard, acceptable, generally speaking, to give him a clip round the ear and not give it a second thought. I'm a woman, I'm the fairer sex, it's not like it's hurting him, he's being a big baby. That was her attitude, in her words, almost verbatim. Well, that's how much society has shifted from the 70s to now. It's gone the other way in terms of gender. Now it's acceptable. Until you get it put in front of your peers, then you have to lie through your back teeth to actually cover the fact that that's what you've actually done. You saw it as, Amber Heard saw it as acceptable to give her husband a clip round the ear whenever he displeased her or abandoned her. Well, that's not acceptable. Obviously not. It's cost her about 8 million quid.
Is the UK courts going to be going after her for perjury?
No, and I don't think Depp will, but he is open to do that if he chose to. Not go after the son. That was done and dusted. The appeal went through and he failed that as well. That's closed door now. The guy, the judge, Nicole, I think he was called, is retired now. That was his last ever case. Very suspicious, especially as he had connections to Dan Wootton directly through talk radio, I think it was. I think his son worked with him. Nevertheless, that's a whole different story. But he's now open to anybody who's republished the wife beater allegation, because the UK courts absolutely will take into consideration the judgment by a jury of his peers over in the States, while America wouldn't in reverse. So yeah, he can go after people who republish that. And there's plenty. Do I think he will? I think he'd be an asshole. I think I'd definitely have my opinion go down of him if he did. He claimed, via his solicitors, at the end in the closing statements of that trial, that he just wanted his life back. The same sentiment that Amber Heard was trying to portray with her lies. He meant it, and I believed him when the solicitor said, we're not really actually looking for any money. That's not what he's after. And I believed them. I was like, yeah, that's evident when he immediately sodded off to England to do a concert, to let off steam. He's done his bit. He's appealed to the public to say he's not a wife beater, and he's won the hearts and minds of the public through a televised court appeal. Well, the court probably doesn't matter to him. So if he went after some UK paper who'd republished just to make the point that you can't do that, I think, no, he didn't need to. The tabloids will carry on doing what they're doing. This will change nothing. You're not going to change the world, Mr. Depp, if he started doing that. But I don't think he will. I think he'll get on with his life, make movies and music from this point forward and be a happy man without some... Well, I say without. She'll never let him go. She's a narcissist. She'll be on his back for the rest of his natural days. But that's how narcissists are. But to the extent that he can keep her out of his life, he can just get on with it from this point forward. So I don't think he'll be chasing down any papers. But legally, the door is open for him to do so. If you happen to republish the notion that he's a wife beater, a la Dan Wootton in The Sun, then don't, be a little bit afraid, because he definitely could come after you. And what's in it for him if he doesn't even want to do anything? He just pass it over to his solicitors. So yeah, rape them all. take them all to the bookshed and beat the living crap out of them legally, because they all said it, didn't they, the sods? So I could go over to England and every one of those tabloid rags that claimed it after Dan did, well, unfortunately for you, republication isn't going to be a defence because of the case that Dan won. Now I've got a jury verdict in my favour. She's a liar.
Well, what he could do, Nathan.
Good.
Sorry,
I'm really happy
I was in
for him.
first. What he could do, Nathan, I have to do this, I'm sorry. But what he could do is he could send his legal team after the Sun on other places again, because this disproves their statement on the front of their paper that he was doing what they said he was doing, and other places. And he could just have the verdicts just to pay for his legal bills and give any other awards, financial awards to him after that, to like the London's Children's Hospital and places like that. He doesn't have to take any profits from it. He just needs to have his legal bills paid, and any money awarded after that goes directly to his charity of choice. He could do that, and he could do that for 10 years, and everyone would be happy.
Yes, he could. He could do that, but I doubt he will. And again, if he did, even if he was donating the proceeds to charity, as a crusade against the people he's doing it to, it's a crusade against changing the world and the way that the information that we fight against, that's why I'm carrying on this subject now, is disseminated to the masses. You're never going to change that. The men of power who run the world are going to always run the world and disseminate their information by the means at their disposal. You're never going to change that. So why bother trying? You can right a wrong if it's so egregious that it causes your life to be destroyed. In the case of Johnny Depp, that's exactly what happened. And I don't blame him for going after the truth and wanting to disseminate that to the masses. But he's achieved that now. So, yeah, carry on giving to charity. If he does, I'm sure he does. He does a lot of charity work. Carries around his little pirate kit, doesn't he? Occasionally stops into hospitals and cheers at people who are dying. So you can't really knock him for his lack of charity work. But by the same token, just as far as I'm concerned, I've been through court. I'm sure some of the people on the panel have been through court cases in their past. It's not much fun. You just want to get on with. You actually want to get the hell away from anybody who's associated with that and just deal with something else. And his actions before the verdict came in and after the actual trial of sorts had finished, he just immediately disappeared out of the country. So that to me shows the kind of actions that I would expect of somebody who was sincere when they said, I just want to get on with my life. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of people claiming I'm a wife beater. I'm not. Let's put that to right and then get on with it. Not carry on going after the people who claimed it in the tabloids.
Well, my question goes to the actual criminal nature of what Amber Heard did. She perjured herself, which is a criminal offense. Will England's courts be seeking, prosecution?
Okay, what I think will happen, and this is going on the dozens and dozens of hours of listening to solicitors comment on the case. So this isn't necessarily my opinion, it's just what I've formed from other people's opinions on the matter. There is a pending perjury case against Amber Heard in Australia because she smuggled 2 dogs via Johnny Depp's private jet into Australia after being explicitly told not to do so. So one of Johnny Depp's assistants was dealing with the matter of getting them through at a short notice through their very, very, very strict biohazard security rules. And you weren't allowed to do it without huge lengths of quarantine. They didn't have enough time to do it, so she was expressly told, don't bring the dogs. She brought them anyway, then stupidly tweeted out a picture of them. They cottoned on. She lied, basically blamed her own assistant on not doing things correctly, apologised, but said it wasn't her fault, and things got on with as they were, until the UK trial. And in the UK trial, the assistant of Johnny Depp explained to the trial that he had lied to the Australian authorities to cover Amber Heard's back, basically, as Johnny Depp's wife and as an assistant to him. He felt almost obliged and did lie for her, but he disclaimed that in the UK court. Now, that's not perjury, just in case anybody isn't clear about that. You can lie outside of the context and describe a lie you've told. That's not perjury. It's just actually telling a lie while you're under oath, as opposed to detailing a lie you previously told, or lying in general. But either way, this guy explains that he lied to their authorities about these dogs and therefore about the excuse she gave to get away with not getting any legal trouble and just sending the dogs back without them being destroyed. when they found that out, the Australians, that she had essentially committed perjury already in the UK trial prior to the one that's just been concluded in the States, in Georgia, they wanted to have her over a barrel. They couldn't, or it seemed like they couldn't, because of this current pending trial. Now that that is over, I expect that to be the case, because they were vehement about it. They were adamant. They want her, and they want to prosecute her, because of their stringent rules. It was in COVID times that they were wanting to do this, i.e. when they found out about the perjury, because it was during COVID lockdowns or in the interim that the case in the UK actually took place. So at the time, everyone's on hyper alert. They want to make an example of her. They've gone on television making that explicitly clear. That's been republished over and over again before the trial started, the most recent one. So the Australians will want their pound of flesh from Amber Heard for perjury and for violating their security. If they do, and if that is successful, I would expect a whole string of countries, starting with the UK, to follow suit. But that will only be the case if Australia actually act on what they've said they will act on, and as far as I'm concerned, it seems very, very likely that they will. So if that's the case and she does get convicted of perjury by the Australians, the English, it just opens the floodgates, basically. There'll be a whole bunch of other courts that will see that she's perjured herself and want to have her over a barrel for it. So it may be a very bad day for Amber Heard going forward, depending on what the Australians do.
But who's barking about it?
Hold on, that's the thing. It's embarrassing to the court.
Come on.
If they don't do anything.
That's what that's the most recent sentiment of, because initially everyone was saying during the trial, no, she's not going to get done for perjury. If you lose, you just lose. But then as time has progressed, people have started to highlight that and say exactly that. No, you make a mockery of the system if you allow people to intentionally commit perjury and there is no punishment. Now, while typically in the States especially, they don't want to they're backlogged with cases. They don't want cases about cases. So yes, statistically it might be unlikely, but when it's a high profile case like this, there is an argument for their legal system making an exception. No, they don't want cases about cases going through the court systems, clogging them up typically. But when there's a high profile perjury being committed live on TV, you've got to really do something about that, because it makes a mockery of the whole thing, doesn't it?
Well, who's complaining about it, or should I say balking about it?
Lawyers and state officials in the case of the Australians, and the English have hinted at it to a certain extent from what I can glean. I can't give you a specific example, far from it. With the Australians I can, because they've gone on national TV and made it clear they want Amber Heard for perjury.
Wow, I just missed that.
High profile basically means prestige, right? So there's going to be people onto this because it just got so much attention. They won't be able to help it, right?
Well, it's just
because of the high profile.
Well, they just want to hold her up as an example. You know, it's very bad form to commit perjury. Not just bad form, it's illegal, it's prosecutable, and people shouldn't be doing it. Whereas if you just leave it unchecked, and the general consensus says, you never get done for perjury, people go, it's all right to lie in court to a judge or a jury. No, that should have severe, and typically was understood to have severe consequences, to the point where even during the trial, they're like, so you think somebody's going to risk jail time for committing perjury, when she suggested that the guy at the Hicksville trailer had just imagined being there and invented it to be on telly. That's what she said. He's never there. Don't know who he is. And even if he is, $60 isn't what the lamp cost. Or something like that. Just something so contradictory and absurd it was untrue. But literally, she was confronted with that by saying, you saying that he's going to commit perjury for Johnny Depp? Well, that should have some weight behind it. If it doesn't, what are you going to do when you're cross-examining somebody when they're lying, the barefaced lie on the stand? Well, what about perjury? They'll just snicker if Amber gets away with it with no consequences. They'll go, yeah, so what? So nothing's going to happen to me.
Unless you're powerful and connected like politicians here in the States that perjure every day and lie and do everything under oath even, and nothing ever happens to them.
No,
Yeah,
the oath that they're lying under is not the same.
Under emergency laws and stuff, right? They're deep. They're dug in deep and able to do that. It's different.
I just not get my pun.
Well, hold on. The oath that politicians take is a different oath than you take when you take the stand. And taking the stand and perjuring yourself knowingly
No, that's what I'm talking about. Taking the stand. They've lied. FBI officials to CIA to politicians lie on the stand. Give me a break.
No, getting in trouble for committing perjury is also non-canon now, so that's why.
At least I got that. Nobody got my pun. I that means I'm freaking awesome.
Yeah, but what I said is really relevant. Well, it's not really relevant, but saying that makes people listen to what I'm going to say. Well, my point was that my point was I manipulated there. My point was that Johnny Depp doesn't need to be with his legal team going to all these different cases against all these different newspapers and media outlets. His legal team just needs to turn up. He has already proven his innocence. So all that needs to happen is they need to turn up, do the work on his behalf, get paid, and then he decides where the settlement goes to, what charity the settlement goes to. He could have that going on continually and not have to ever really lift a finger or just take the odd phone call. Nothing will really matter. His legal team sorts all that out. So he doesn't need to be there. He's been already proven innocent. So that's what I would do. And I know, Nathan, you said you're not going to change the world, but it's not about changing the world. It's about just sticking the knife back in to those who, attacked your character.
Yeah, I agree. I understand the sentiment. And depending on the personality, I might agree with you in certain circumstances with certain people. But in this circumstance, with this person, it would, after the fact, based on his character that's gone before the jury and me, because I got to watch it, I would say that that's vindictive and out of character. And I'd feel like, okay, so the character you portrayed to me that won you the case isn't necessarily the character that you actually like, even if you're going to try and hide it under the guise of giving it to charity. You actually are vindictive. You do want to keep it going. You don't want to just move on. I would feel like you would deceive me in some way. But we can agree to disagree. It's not necessarily about what's right or wrong. It's just our opinion on one individual's character.
Yeah, I'm thinking from my own point of view. You can be sure that's probably what I would do.
That's what I mean. I would too. But I'm not Johnny Depp, and therefore, I'm not pretending to be some super calm guy. The most angry he's got is smashing cupboards when he lost 65 million or something. Me, I tend to be a bit more short-tempered than he seems to be, and a lot less laid back. So, yes, I would do that. But there we go. That's me and you versus him. Anyway, I'm going to round out on that note. So with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ Panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the thanks button, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video. What a lovely day!